going to talk a little bit about journalism and how there's like this internal war between real journalists and really jealous journalists. So Times' Michael Grunwald recently tweeted something that got him into a lot of trouble. Is it okay to celebrate the prospect of another journalist's death? I don't know. Take a look.
And on Saturday, a senior reporter for Time magazine tweeted, quote, "I can't wait to write a defense of the drone strikes that take out Julian Assange." After facing flack for the tweet about the Wikileaks co-founder, Michael Grunwald promptly deleted it. His employer released a statement saying, quote, "Michael Grunwald posted a defensive tweet from his personal Twitter account that is in no way representative of Time's views. He regrets having tweeted it and he removed it from his feed."
Now, he removed it from his feed after Glenn Greenwald criticized him for it. Zaid Jilani criticized him for it. A number of people were really upset about that. I mean, even if you despise someone, it's never okay to celebrate the prospect of them dying. And to say that you're in favor of Obama doing a drone strike on him so you can defend Obama is just hideous. I can't even believe somebody would think it's okay to tweet something like that. He did take it down, but I don't even think that he's really that remorseful or apologetic about what he tweeted. Now, Wendy, obviously my thoughts on this are clear, but I really want to get your thoughts. I mean, on a scale of 1 to 10, how bad was that tweet?
I thought it was really bad. You know, everybody always tries to make the difference between, are you an advocate journalist? Are you, just reporting the news? It's all about phrasing. And I think if he would have said the same thing in a different way, maybe it would have been different. But I mean, that's just awful. How do you wish that somebody's death would benefit you personally as a writer, as a journalist? That's terrible. It's bad all around.
But I think we have to realize too, though, that I think on Twitter, people get a little too into it. Yeah. And all you're thinking about is, oh, I'm gonna say this witty thing and it's gonna get so many retweets and oh my gosh, this is really gonna blow up. And I think people get a little carried away. I'm not defending his tweet.
He's not just a person, he is a representative of, as a journalist.
It's his personal account. I'm not defending his tweet, but I do think that Twitter kind of breeds that kind of like, I'm gonna come up with the next big thing that people are gonna, I don't know.
Well, it was the next big thing, yeah. I mean, it got a lot of attention, but isn't it indicative of like this internal war between like establishment media and new media? I mean, there is this huge debate about whether or not Julian Assange can be considered a journalist. I would consider him a journalist because he's actually leaked more information and important information about government wrongdoing than any establishment journalist has ever done. But I mean, is it okay for us to allow this ridiculous, conversation to continue where there's this obvious hatred between the establishment and new media?
Well, yes, and what's particularly concerning is, and to deal with like both of the issues that Wendy and Jenny talked about, is that we live in a dangerous times for journalists and for whistleblowers for that matter. So comments like this, whether on Twitter, on Facebook, social media, or on the air for that matter, they're still dangerous. They're still dangerous comments because of the repercussions and the precedent that you're saying. Imagine Walter Cronkite saying on air, take out Daniel Ellsberg. You wouldn't ever consider that because, there was a responsibility that, in order to tackle certain topics, you had to tackle in the most responsible way. So there is this kind of challenge of the way to make journalism today versus the ethical way to make
Definitely. Journalism has devolved, and it's a little depressing to see how it is. I mean, this level of professionalism is gone. And by the way, the part of that tweet that also bothers me is you're kind of giving Obama a pass for his drone program, which is something that I'm a huge opponent of. Like, I can't wait until Obama does a drone strike on Julian Assange. Really? I mean, first of all, we've done an entire show on the drone strikes and how it's causing hostility toward the United States. Like, that was such an irresponsible and ignorant tweet to put out, along with hateful and dangerous.
Right. Yeah.
Well, I think it's indicative, the content of the tweet and the sentiment behind it, I think is indicative of the fact that establishment media is concerned. Because the role of the media used to be to question things, to look into things, to expose things, to see wrongdoings, to let people know what's really going on. And they have failed us. They've stopped doing that.
They dropped the ball.
other people have had to step in and do the things that these media outlets used to do and have for some reason decided that it's not their responsibility anymore. And I think they're afraid, and they're realizing that they're becoming less and less relevant, and that these other things are kind of really blowing wide open, and it's easier for other people to have access to these things. It used to be that there were certain tunnels and things had to go through this channel, and the leaks came to the New York Times from this person. And those are kind of falling away, so they're really scrambling.
And the thing is, there's a lot of jealousy. I see a lot of jealousy among establishment media types, and also it's not that they realize like, oh, this is not our responsibility. It has to do with access. People like Julian Assange and Edward Snowden and Glenn Greenwald and David Sirota and Jeremy Scahill, all those people give a big middle finger to access. And that's a really difficult thing for a journalist to do, because you want to talk to the top officials. You want to get the scoop on a story. But they realize that leaking the truth about government wrongdoing is more important than sitting down and doing a fake interview with some government official.
And since when did that become activism? I don't understand when that went from journalism to activism. That's journalism. That is actual journalism. And I think that is the important distinction to make right now in this case. What would have happened if Grunwald would have gotten the scoop first? He would have seen it as journalism. But no, he sees it as activism.
And the reason why he hasn't gotten the scoop is because his reporting is totally shoddy compared to what Glenn Greenwald has done. Glenn Greenwald has been reporting on civil liberties violations for a while now. Who else has been doing that with such detail and with such courage, especially considering what the government's been doing lately to whistleblowers and stuff like that? So
we find ourselves in a situation where media is embedded with government and with politics, and we see it with Fox News and MSNBC. We're obviously leaning in certain ways, and it's not so much as far as the report that's being given, but the personality behind the report. And so much of it is, do I trust that reporter? Do I trust that media personality? And if so, then it becomes a responsibility of that individual to create the connection with the audience or with the listener. And so a lot of what we're facing is that for media, we are competing against our own public, our own viewer, our own listener, to create that content. And so then you have situations in which you call it activism because it's coming from the streets, because it's coming from somebody that's not necessarily a journalist. And so there's a lot of competition within ourselves and within the public.
I find it so fascinating that, it's activism if you have a point of view on something.
Right.
If you're not on a major network.
Right.
But if you're on a major network, then that's journalism. I think the bottom line is that objectivity died a long time ago. And I'd rather have people be upfront and open about how they feel about something when they're reporting it than to pretend to be objective.
I totally agree. Preach it, sister.